Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine crawling into a hole in the earth, a long, dark, narrow cave. The walls are tight, so tight you have to exhale just to squeeze forward. There's no light, only the weak beam from your helmet. The ceiling is inches from your face. You can't turn around. You can't turn at all. You can't stand. You can't even bend your knees. Now imagine getting stuck, head first, upside down. Your arms pinned to your sides. Your legs kicking against cold rock. Your body slowly swelling as blood pools in your brain. And as hope disappears, the realization sets in. There's no easy way out. This is not a horror story. This is the real-life nightmare that claimed the life of John Edward Jones. And it happened in a cave deceptively named Nutty Putty. And remember, viewer discretion is advised. John Edward Jones was 26 years old, a medical student, a devoted husband, a father to a 1-year-old girl, with a second child on the way. He was also a man of faith, thoughtful, bright, raised in Utah, where exploring caves was a childhood tradition. And on November 24th, 2009, John decided to relive those memories with his younger brother, Josh. That night, they joined a group of family and friends to explore Nutty Putty Cave, about 55 miles south of Salt Lake City. It was meant to be a lighthearted adventure set in nostalgia, a bit of harmless fun. Nutty Putty wasn't considered extreme. In fact, it was widely seen as a beginner cave, but that label was dangerously misleading. The cave stretches about 1,400 feet, or 430 meters, and consists mainly of tight, winding passageways with very few open chambers. Its notable features include the birth canal, a notoriously narrow passage just 18 inches wide, requiring visitors to flatten themselves out and shimmy sideways like a letter sliding into a mailbox. Many first-time cavers use it as a test of nerve. It's also famous for the Big Slide, a steep, smooth section of tunnel that slopes downward like a natural stone playground. It was fun going in, but tricky to climb back out. Scout Eater, a twisting tunnel that slopes sharply downward, deceptively narrow and claustrophobic despite its playful name. And Ed's Push, a rarely used chute, steep and constricted, buried deep in the cave's lower levels. Most of Nutty Putty requires belly crawling or wriggling. Some areas are barely wider than a human chest, and most importantly, once you're deep inside, turning around isn't always an option. Despite being a beginner cave, Nutty Putty had a troubling history. In 2004, 2 separate rescues had to be carried out. The cave was closed for a time due to safety concerns, but by 2009 it was open again, with no warning of what was to come. John and Josh had separated briefly from the group, hoping to find the birth canal, the narrow, sloped passage that opens into a larger cavity once you push through. John went in first, crawling head first on his stomach, through a tunnel that looked familiar. It was tight, tighter than he remembered, but he kept going, exhaling just to squeeze forward. In caves like these, that's often the only way. But this wasn't the birth canal. Unknowingly, John had entered a narrow fissure believed to be part of Ed's Push, a little-used, twisting tunnel that funneled down into a sloped bottleneck, known among a few cavers as the Pit. Most avoided it. In fact, no one had ever gone beyond that point, not because it was forbidden, but because it simply didn't lead anywhere useful. It ended in rock. But John didn't know that. In the tight, dark crawl space, he kept pressing forward, believing it would open up, the way the real birth canal eventually does. Once inside, turning around was no longer an option. With his arms pinned and the chute angling downward, he could only go deeper. Then, with one final breath and slide, he stopped. He was stuck, wedge-locked in place, his arms trapped, chest compressed, head pointed downward. Josh tried to grab his legs, pulling hard, but John didn't budge. His body was locked in the rock like a cork in a bottle. Unable to do more, Josh wriggled backward through the tunnel and called for help. The call for help went out just after 9 p.m. By nightfall, expert cave rescuers had mobilized. Paramedics, engineers, even National Guard units assembled above ground. But only a few could reach him. To get to John, rescuers had to worm through a maze of constricted rock, dragging gear behind them, breath scraping against their ribs. Some were barely able to fit. When Lane Hendrickson reached John, he found him inverted, with just his calves and boots visible. John was pale, gasping, but he spoke. "Is someone there?" Lane grabbed his foot. "Yes, I'm here. You're not alone." Lane stayed as long as he could, holding his foot, repeating, "We're not leaving you." Soon, Shane Lyons, a paramedic and trained caver, joined him. Crawling into position took over an hour. Shane brought an IV tube, some fluids, and a radio to patch John through to the surface. John's voice cracked as he spoke to his wife, Emily. "I'm okay. I'm okay. I love you. Kiss Lizzie for me." Above ground, engineers worked frantically to build a custom pulley system, anchoring ropes to the rock walls with bolts and clamps. It was dangerous, improvised, but it was their only shot. They pulled. John budged, maybe 6 inches. But then his body swelled. His breathing slowed. The blood, pooled in his head, began crushing his organs. He had lost control of his legs and could not bend them. He was fading. Between efforts, John whispered, "I want to get out. Please don't leave me." With every attempt to pull him out, his legs kept hitting the top of the cave, above the hole he was stuck in. Rescuers considered breaking his legs to reposition him. A cruel choice, but possibly his only chance. They debated. Time ticked. John tried to stay awake. He recited scriptures. He told jokes. He promised he'd take Emily to the beach when this was over. But with each hour upside down, the pressure built. His eyes dimmed. His voice weakened. A rescuer later said, "You could feel him slipping away, and there was nothing we could do." As rescuers prepared one final extraction attempt, the main anchor point, drilled into the cave wall, snapped free. A rescuer named Ryan Schertz, who was near the anchor, was struck in the face and briefly knocked unconscious. The pulley system collapsed. John slid even deeper, twisting tighter into the rock. Now, not only was he more stuck than before, but access to him had become even harder. John's words had turned to whispers, then to groans, then silence. By midday, November 25th, John was unconscious. His breathing had slowed to almost nothing. Just before midnight, he was officially declared dead. The official cause of death was cardiac arrest due to positional asphyxia. He had been trapped for over 27 hours. After assessing the immense danger to rescuers, authorities made the decision his body would not be recovered. A week later, Nutty Putty Cave was sealed permanently. Explosives and concrete blocked the passage. John Jones remains inside to this day. John Edward Jones wasn't a daredevil. He wasn't reckless. He simply loved the caves of his childhood. But caves are indifferent. They don't bend to good intentions. They don't care if you have a family waiting at home. Nutty Putty was supposed to be a beginner cave, but for John, it became a tomb. Today, a small plaque above the sealed entrance marks the site, a quiet memorial to a man whose final hours were spent in darkness, surrounded by stone, held in place by the earth itself. His story is a warning, a tragedy, and a reminder. Underground, every choice matters. This was Phantom Frontiers. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, please drop a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And like and subscribe for more true stories from the edge of the unknown. Until next time, keep your eyes open and your mind even more so.